Hey everybody, my name is Brandon, aka the BrandoCritic, and today we are discussing Clueless. So the year is 2014, and I was invited to one of my cousin's places, and we wanted to have a Disney movie night. And so first off we watched the Goofy movie, and then my cousin said, "Oh, have you seen Clueless?" That was like one of my favorite movies growing up from the 90s. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. Never even heard of it. And she's like, okay, we got to watch that next. So I'm like, okay, sure. Why not? Let's just put this movie in. And when I watched it, I'm like, this is actually a really good movie. When I get home, I'm just going through the internet and then a new music video comes out. It's this song called Fancy by Iggy Azalea, which just happens to have scenes from Clueless in it. It was the same day. So I'm like, okay, I guess this is the universe telling me something. So like I hinted at before, this movie came out in 1995, the same year I was born. So their view of high school is going to be a little bit different than the high school we have today. So it is very, very dated, especially with the dialogue and with the fashion and just the way that people act, talk, and just the entire feel of the movie. But I love that. I love how this movie is kind of like a time capsule for the time period, right? It's still a pretty accurate representation about the cliques of high school and the popularity and how that is like the main focus. Like that's the most important thing in high school is your popularity. Who are you seen with, your perception, what people think of you. That is high school, according to Cher and her friends. And that topic has been tackled by many films before it, like Fast Times at Ridgemont High and The Breakfast Club, and there's been many of teen movies after this movie, like American Pie, 10 Things I Hate About You, and Mean Girls especially, I'll come back to that one, that tackles the exact same subject matter. But what about this movie makes it stand out? One, that it's in the 90s, and two is Cher, played by Alicia Silverstone. And like I said before in my Legally Blonde review, when you're casting like the dumb blonde or like the popular ditzy blonde girl in a movie, you have to make her likable, especially for straight white guys. And I mentioned in my other review that I used to be a bartender and how when I would pour drinks for girls, like just when especially when they're drunk too, just like you know, like the party girls, right? Oh my god, let's listen to Despacito. Let's like I can't do it anymore, right? I have no patience for it. So in movies, when I watch like that kind of dumb valley girl, she has to be likable. And while Cher is likable on screen, her character is she is a complete like she really is. But the way that she's so watchable, even though you really don't like her, is because I've never heard dialogue like this in any teen movie and basically any movie ever. There's context and subtext, right? When you say something, you mean something else. So like when a teacher talks to another teacher and you say, oh yeah, Jimmy, yeah, he's a good kid. Do the teachers actually mean that he's a good kid? No, they mean that he's a troublemaker, right? But this movie, it seems like all the dialogue is subtext. They just say what they mean and everything is like completely on the page. It's hard to explain. You have to watch the movie to really understand it. Like there's this one dialogue where like the guy said, he's talking about like, hey baby, it's just like, excuse me, Miss Dion. Like, okay, there are some certain words that are not entirely misogynistic that I'd like to call you, but I want to act cool in front of my friends. And it's like, why is this guy describing this? It's extremely bizarre and it's hard for me to explain in words, but watch the movie and you see what I mean. The dialogue is very subtext, and Cher's delivery, or Alicia Silverstone's delivery, is top notch. When she's talking about, and she has like lines like, oh, why would you need to park everywhere you go that has valet? It's like, that is just so clever. I love it. I love the dialogue in here. And again, Cher's character, while she is extremely mean and she's extremely selfish, she does change at the end of the movie and you do like her enough to want her and you see the potential for her to change, and that's why you keep watching. And like I said before, how movies have tackled the subject matter before, this movie is basically the 90s version of Mean Girls, except told from Regina George's perspective. So Cher, you know, she sees Ty with a new girl in school and she's just so clueless and she's not dressed very nicely, she doesn't know like the inner workings of popularity, but then Cher and Dion, her two friends, they see some potential in her, right? And they want to create her and like bring her into the group and make her popular so that she won't be so clueless anymore. And then obviously, like in Mean Girls, the girl that the project becomes, or the apprentice becomes the master, right? So now Ty is starting to become more popular than Cher, and then Cher starts to realize, okay, I'm not actually a very nice person, I did this for all my own selfish reasons. And again, it's just like Mean Girls, but told from a different perspective. Add on top of that with the 90s subtext dialogue and the 90s fashion sense, this movie is extremely unique. So with all those great elements put into a blender, and then you add in Paul Rudd's first performance, one of his first performances, and his great chemistry with Cher and Dion and Ty, it's just a great, great movie. I give it a 5 out of 5. And a little personal story, I watched it again for this review. I watched it actually on my phone on Netflix, and then a couple months went by, and then my cousin, who had never seen Clueless, and he likes American Pie and 10 Things I Hate About You and those type of movies, I say, okay, let's watch Clueless. So he came over with his brother, and there's one scene in particular, I won't tell you what it is, you can guess in the comment section down below. We watched the scene, and we were laughing so hard that we had to pause it. And we laughed for about 2 minutes straight. And my cousin, he'll laugh at movies, but he's kind of quiet, he's kind of reserved. He was on the floor, like crying, screaming, laughing. I'm not gonna tell you what scene it is, you guys can guess, but this movie, while not the most hilarious of movies, it's not like on the same level of like an SNL type of alumni comedy like a Talladega Nights or a Horrible Bosses. You know, it's very subtle humor, subtextual humor, but there are some scenes that will make you roll on the floor laughing. Anyways guys, I want to ask you, for all those people who actually went to high school in the 90s, I was born in 95, so I did not get to experience it. My high school years were 2008, 2013. What part of 90s high school did Clueless get absolutely right, and what part of 90s high school do you miss? Or is there something in 90s high school that you just despise and you're glad you never have to deal with it again? Whatever it is, let me know in the comment section down below, and thank you so much for watching. This means so much. Take care.